Welcome everyone. Today we're joined by Charlotte Maher Taylor, CEO of Area Agency on Aging of Broward County, an organization dedicated to supporting older adults, people with disabilities, and the caregivers who care for them. With more than 30 years of experience in healthcare, nonprofit leadership, and public affairs, Charlotte has been a strong advocate for the vulnerable populations and has helped influence policies and programs to improve the quality of life of older adults across our community. Charlotte, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for doing this. Charlotte and I was lucky enough to do about 700 homes alongside Charlotte, and that's how we became friends, really, because we would have the late night calls and we really impacted a lot of people's lives. So I would love the audience to know a little bit more about you, how you got into this, and just overall who you are.
Thank you. Well, I'd actually like to begin with commenting on what you were talking about, that time we worked together. It was such an honor to work with you because you were so dedicated to really helping as many seniors as possible. And that is really how we bonded, right? Because we both were like, we need to help as many people as we can. So again, it's an honor to work with you and know you.
Oh, thank you.
And so my history, just how I got here, was for many years I worked for the Broward Health System, and I used to be in charge of all their government relations and lobbying. And I got to know the agency, their Agency on Aging, where I work now, many years ago, before I started here. And what I did at that time was I started looking at the programs that the agency provided and how they were helping so many people. So I would, when I was up in Tallahassee, kind of get a phone call from the previous director, say, hey, can you help out with this, help out with that? And I would be, yeah, I'd be happy to. So I started kind of advocating for them before I started working here. The other thing is, in my personal experience, I of course have parents like everyone else, and both of my parents, helping them through the aging process and seeing some of the vulnerabilities they had to deal with, I realized that as you age, you need more assistance. And when I looked around, there weren't a lot of programs where people could turn to, where they could actually get that assistance that they need. One of the themes of our agency is know us before you need us, because oftentimes as people age, they don't really know where to go. Going back a little bit, prior to coming to the agency, I mentioned I'd worked at the Broward Health System for years, actually lobbying and advocating for them. But I also worked at a disability program, the Ann Stork Center, where we had very vulnerable individuals who had intellectual disabilities. And there was a lot of resources in place for us to help them, which I was very happy about and grateful to be able to serve them. But when I was asked to come to their Agency on Aging, I realized that there were resources, but no one really knew about them. Like if you have a child with a disability, you know more where to go. Whereas when you're dealing with seniors, seniors are often hidden. And their needs are hidden, so people don't know where to go. So I ended up at this agency because I really wanted to help the senior population, let people know more what services are available to them, and address those people who don't even know that there's just help out there.
Well, that is exactly why you're here today, because as you know my story, right, I found it after picking my dad up off the floor, and I selfishly wanted to just get the help through Medicaid, Medicare, government programs, and I just didn't know where to look. So I went online. I did the caregiver thing. I went online. I started Googling how to SeniorProof a house, what's Medicare, all these things, right? I'm sure a lot of caregivers that are listening can relate. But the reality was that I did not know about the area agencies on aging until I started the company, until I started networking and meeting great people like you, people in the industry. And this is exactly why you're here today, because you are going to help so many people listening right now understand that not only to be proactive, right, to not call us or call you after the fall or after a surgery or after something critical happens, but now, right, being more proactive to that. So I love that you mentioned that. Tell me about your programs. Tell me what the AAA is. Everybody, whenever I say AAA, they always think about the car company, right? That's not it. It is called Area Agency on Aging. Tell me a little bit more about the program for the listeners.
So the Area Agency on Aging of Broward County is who we are. There are actually 11 area agencies on aging in the state of Florida, and we each have areas that we cover. We cover only Broward County. Most of the others actually cover multiple counties. We offer services such as home delivered meals, congregate meals. We have a supplemental meal box that we'll give to people who just needs a little extra. We have daycare services, we have senior services, a variety of different in-home services that can help people. We have home modifications, as you know, because we worked on that together. Health and wellness classes that people can take that are evidence-based. They're been medically proven that they work. We actually have a mental health checkup program that helps people build social networks if people are isolated. We have, all different types of programs. Covers everything, a variety of different technology that people can get to help them with fall alert or maybe socialization type of activities. And then we also have a very strong specific caregiver program, something called our caregiver navigation program. Someone who's a caregiver who might be feeling overwhelmed can actually call a navigator. They will put them through this assessment. It's a T-Care assessment, which helps them look at caregiver burnout and helps them identify resources to assist them in their caregiving. In addition, we have an online community that we offer to people called Trualta. That community is something people can go on 24/7. They can connect with other caregivers and have conversations. They have all kinds of different types of materials to help them with their caregiving. So it's really an extra resource that's very helpful. In addition to that, we have something called Educate, which is experiential. And Educate is really cool because what happens if you are caring for someone who has dementia and you see them changing, you don't know why, their personality is different, you don't know what's happening, you can actually go through that experience through this Educate program, and you will know what your loved one's feeling like, which helps you to understand why they're reacting a certain way. I know my team members have gone through it, and they said it was really scary to them when they were going through it, realizing that how hard it was to understand what people were saying and to respond. And it just is really, really good for the caregiver to be able to go through that and understand that. In addition, the navigators will help people fill out paperwork. If they have issues with travel, they'll go to their house. We run also the long-term, we don't run it, but if you want to get approved for the long-term care program in the state of Florida, which typically when someone has a loved one who's becoming more and more frail and the costs are getting higher, they might need to get qualified for that program. So they would call our helpline, they would go through the screening, and then depending on the score, if they score a 5, typically it's a score of 1 to 5, but if they're a 5, usually pretty soon after they'll get approved for the long-term care program, and they'll go through the Medicaid benefit counseling where they'll help them gather their paperwork together and get everything together to get to that point of qualification and getting approved. Our navigators will help people. We have benefit counselors who deal with that full time, but the navigators, again, might go out to a house for someone who's having some mobility issues, transportation issues. They'll assist as well to help people. Again, just to help them identify what their need. We also have a LIFT program. Now, we do provide transportation services, but those transportation services are typically through our senior centers and day programs. So, we'll give them the funding, and then they will actually arrange for transportation for the people who participate. But in addition to that, we have a LIFT program. And this program is really great because it gives people 2 options. They can either get a lift pass where they can book their own ride, or if they're having some issues, maybe some cognitive issues, or they're just not comfortable with technology, the staff person, the transportation coordinator, will provide that concierge type help with them. They'll book it for them, they'll give them a reminder, they'll kind of work with them through the whole process. And that's like another benefit, and that can really help a caregiver as well, because if you're overwhelmed and your loved one needs to get to an appointment, what if your car breaks down suddenly, you need to get into the appointment, you have this extra resource. So we provide services for older adults who are living alone and more independent, but we also have them again for the caregivers, which is what we're talking about here, to help them better care for their loved one.
Yeah.
And all of the services we have, I mentioned specifically just now the caregiver navigation and that program, but we also have like health and wellness classes. We have powerful tool for caregivers. I'd mentioned those earlier. That's a great program where you can go through with other people. You can learn tools to help you with your caregiving. Within our network, and by the way, we have a network of over 40 providers that we contract with, in addition to the team who's in our office actually providing services. We actually have caregiver group counseling services, gerontological counseling. So there's a lot of resources in addition to the programs I mentioned that the team's doing specifically with the navigation services. They can actually go to one of our providers and go through some of the counseling and all those other things. And then I also want to mention we have a caregiver texting service, which is great.
Okay.
So if you're a caregiver, you can actually text for a question. So you can ask questions about our resources, different types of things that can help you, and you just shoot a text, and it's an AI service now. We just started this about a month ago.
Very cool.
And it's working really well. People really like it.
AI is the future.
Yes, as long as it's properly vetted, right? And we check it out. This one we've actually made sure that it's ethical, it's answering appropriately. So we feel really good about this service.
Okay, great. And what was it called again?
It's just a texting service.
Okay,
it's
awesome.
Bridge Social. That's who we're using.
Awesome, amazing. Well, I feel like I'm drinking out of a water hose right now with all this information that the caregivers need to know about, right? So what is one special program for you that you think that we could really lean into?
For caregivers, I think the main program I would lean into is actually what I was just talking about, is those navigation services, that extra support and all the different components. Also, if you go on our website, we actually just recently redid our website, which is very exciting, and we have a caregiver heading. So you can actually just go in there and access all the services directly there. And I think that makes it easier for caregivers to navigate the website. And I want to mention also, too, our Empowering Caregiver Conference. I think that's also an outstanding program.
It really is. I've been there. It's been phenomenal every time.
Yeah, I really think it helps a lot of people. We actually have it in the fall, and we have wonderful speakers who will cover a variety of different topics. And then we also have another conference now in the spring or summer, actually will be in June, for disaster preparedness for caregivers.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, and that's really helpful too. And we have on our website from our last disaster preparedness conference, we actually have disaster booklets in English, Spanish, and Creole. And this way people can go on, they can see how to prepare, how to take care of their loved one, and resources that are available to them in the case of a hurricane. So again, we try to cover everything. And I think it's important because every person is unique as far as what they need, yet there are some variables that are the same for everyone. And what we have found, when I'm talking about caregivers too, I'm talking about unpaid caregivers, talking about those family caregivers or even friends who are helping. The one thing is they all love and care for the individual they're trying to help, and they will do anything to help them.
That's
and
true.
The other common denominator is they forget to take care of themselves.
Yep.
And so a lot of these resources are so important because you're only strong as if you're okay yourself, right? What you don't want to do is do so much for your loved one that you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things we do are also about reminding people, take care of yourself. And that's what that assessment will do, that one I mentioned early on.
Right.
When you go to the Caregiver Navigator, you go through the assessment, it will help you look at where you're at and what you can do to take care of yourself. I want to throw in here that I've been a caregiver a couple of times myself.
Right.
And I know one of the things that I did was when my mom was actually hitting Medicare, right? I didn't know what to do. She didn't know what plan to choose. So I called our agency because I happened to know about us because of our previous work. And we had this SHINE program, which I haven't mentioned. The SHINE program provides excellent information for people who are about to get on Medicare, or people who are in Medicare and maybe need to change their plan, or if they're having trouble and they need to have a grievance or anything along the lines that they need to do with Medicare. The SHINE counselors are specially trained, they're unbiased, which is really important, and they can help caregivers when they're making decisions, but also individuals just in general who are becoming Medicare age. It's really important.
It sounds like we need to get them here too to provide some of those.
I highly recommend that. We'll have to get one of them to speak on that because they're very detailed and they know all the details of Medicare.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for that, because what you're offering is critical not only for our community in Broward County, but really nationally, right? And I know, walk me through the Department of Elder Affairs, walk me through how the agencies work. So when people are watching our videos and understanding what the AAAs are, they could understand that it's not only a Florida thing, it is nationwide.
Yeah, what's really neat is that AAAs were actually created in federal statute many years ago.
Okay.
And there's something called the Older Americans Act. There's a source of funding, Older Americans Act funding, that comes down from the federal government to state government and is distributed to the AAAs in each state. That funding is focused on helping people to remain in their homes, maintain their independence, and just stay in the community as long as they can. So all of our services that are funded by the Older Americans Act are focused on empowering people to live in their homes in the community.
Okay.
Very, very important. So that's basically the focus and mission of that funding. And all AAAs get that funding from the Department of Elder Affairs, and the Department of Elder Affairs distributes it among them. So for Florida, as I mentioned earlier, there's 11 area agencies on aging,
right?
So it's distributed to us. In addition, there is some funding that our Florida legislature has fortunately invested in our seniors for as well. And they also provide 3 sources of funding called Home Care for the Elderly, Alzheimer's Disease Initiative, and Community Care for the Elderly. And they're really focused on fragile individuals, and they provide lots of in-home services through like the Community Care for the Elderly program as well. And the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative, of course, is focused on individuals who have Alzheimer's and dementia, and the funding really is to assist caregivers as well. So all of those funding actually help caregivers as well, because you're helping the very fragile seniors who actually need additional support. And that's the primary funding for all AAAs in Florida. You have that state funding and the Older Americans Act funding. We also work very closely with the Department of Elder Affairs. We're we're not exactly part of them, but we are in the fact that we're kind of their branch offices throughout the state. And we work closely with the Secretary of Elder Affairs and her team, and we report into them as well. So they're great partners for us, and also very committed to helping the seniors in our state.
They really are, and it's shown, right?
Yes, we have a very, our state has done some really great things for seniors. Our legislature has been very supportive of senior issues, funding-wise and policy-wise. If you don't mind, I'd like to mention, I know the Department of Elder Affairs is always looking for proactive ways to support our seniors as well. And they actually just recently contacted me and asked me to help pilot a program with one of the other AAAs that's going to be focused on notifying seniors about scams, preventing scams, and protecting seniors. So again, they're great partners because they're always looking for ways to help our seniors as well.
Yeah, and that's the proactive approach that we need to be in, especially in this industry, right? I kind of fell into this industry because of my dad. And when I tell you, I was driving at least 3 hours north and back to Orlando, helping caregiver for my dad. And there wasn't one place organically where I could Google that the Department of Elder Affairs would have showed up, or AAA would showed up, right? And that's where my biggest frustration was once I got into the industry, saying we need to talk about this. Not only are there resources out there, whether it's government, federally funded, there's so many people at the community level like yourself and the secretary that are being proactive to this aging, right? Because the mega trend is here, right? By 2030, we're gonna be outnumbered by our aging population, right? So it's right around the corner. But the caregivers are the ones that are going to be, in my opinion, their mental health will be sacrificed, because now we're going to be stretched thin, right? We're going to be stretched thin with caring for mom and dad. How are we going to juggle between both? Oh, I have my sister lives across the country. She can't help, right? It's going to be such a an emotional influx to our society, that mental health is something that I always talk about too, right? Putting on your mask on first before you help someone else, right?
Yeah.
With the airplane.
Yeah.
So I love that you touched on that, because that's also super critical. But talk to me a little bit more about the programs, because I know they're going to ask, how can I apply? Where do I go? Do I meet the threshold? So I know every program probably has their own set of standards, but can you walk me through that high level?
I definitely will do that. I want to say one thing first.
Yeah.
When you were just talking, I thought about very important is to be proactive and prepare ahead of time. We've talked about that a bunch of times on other conversations. The biggest thing I get is that people wait to the last minute. They are taking care of someone. They maybe don't want to acknowledge that maybe mom and dad is aging and getting a bit more frail, or maybe they're starting to get some dementia, until it's a point where it's like right there in front of them, and then they're in a panic. So one of the things that is really important is to be proactive and prepare. So you asked me to talk more about our programs and how to qualify, and where they're at. It's good to check that out now. Even if you don't need them now, go on the website, look at what we have, ask questions. Because if you have it like kind of already set down, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do if mom has something happen, then you're ready to go. Yeah. It's really important. So,
and I'm going to add on to that actually, but having that uncomfortable conversation with mom and dad is equally important, right? Because I think that's where it starts at foundation level, at community level, is mom, dad, I saw you just took a fall last week, or I see the medications changing you a little bit. How can I help? How can I support? What is your plan? Do you want to live at home? Do you want to go to an assisted living facility? Like, there needs to be those tough conversations, and while they are uncomfortable, they're very uncomfortable. Right. But you have to get through those 30 minutes of being uncomfortable and understand that there's a plan of action, especially, God forbid, they do get a diagnosis of like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's that may just show up one day. And for me, I'm speaking on my caregiving journey, is that not only was my mental health questionable, right? Because I was trying to juggle a 3-year-old, my husband, a career, driving every 3 hours to Orlando. My brother luckily helped me so much. He was very much my rock during this whole process. But we had some resources, and my dad had some property, right? And so we got to sell a property, and we could help him. We got some around the clock care, but it is not cheap to age, right? It is very expensive to age. So talk to me about the programs. Talk to me about like qualifying for it. I know I always talk about our low resource families. Like, that is really at the heart of the conversation for me, because a lot of our low resource families do not have the choice. They have no choice but to age in place, right? And so if they don't have a choice to go to a fancy Belmont. So like, that's really at the heart of my question, is like, how can we help them?
Well, one of the things I also want to mention we didn't cover is everyone should have a durable power of attorney and a medical proxy for themselves. I don't want to miss that out, because people don't want to think about those things. And also looking at your assets, because even if you're not a low resource family, you can go through resources really quickly. So again, just having plans in place. So if someone gets to the point where their resources have diminished, where they're really having the inability to care for their loved one with where they're at, and they need to go through the long-term care program. Maybe the person's health is diminished and they just can't take care of them at home, but they also can't afford one of those ALFs because, again, they can be pricey. And you need to go through the Medicaid long-term care program. You would call the helpline. You would actually set up a screening appointment, and then you would go through the screening and get a ranking. Again, some people actually will do that when their loved one is starting to develop some challenges, but they may not be to the point where they need to get the program, but they'll actually go and get the screening so they're in the system. So that is also something someone can do, just to be proactive and say, I've noticed mom or dad seems to be getting some of those aging symptoms that we're concerned about, so let's sign up. So that'd be one thing. Programs like our technology, our health and wellness classes, you just go online and sign up. Those are much easier. So the technology, you'll go out, you'll fill up the form. If you want to do health and wellness classes, find out where our classes are. We hold them all throughout the community. Those are really good for you. The technology is really supportive. If you want to go to a senior center, daycare center, you can just go online, go through the helpline. They'll refer you to the centers. So those are much easier to get involved with. If your loved one is at a point where, again, they need additional services, you'll need to go through that screening process. If you don't automatically, maybe you're not ready and you don't qualify for the Medicaid long-term care program, you might qualify for that community care for the elderly program I mentioned earlier, or the ADI program. So one of those might be something that you would go into, which also provides a lot of home services. And again, it has a very rich benefits where you can get that support you need at home. So they're actually all different, right, as far as qualifications go.
Okay.
Most of our programs, you have to be 60, right? And if you are a grandparent and you're taking care of a child in the family you didn't plan on, that one's 55. So that's a little bit lower.
Wow.
And then as far as the screening goes, again, most of the programs are 60 and above. But if you're an individual with a disability and you need to go through the Medicaid long-term care screening for purposes of long-term care, then you actually can be 18 and above with a disability.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah. So again, there's different criteria and different assessments.
But it sounds like you've recreated your website. It's a lot easier to flow through.
Yeah.
And can you share that website with us so our listeners could hear?
Yeah, it's www.adrcbroward.org.
Okay, perfect. And we're going to add that also for everybody to watch.
Yeah.
And I know we focus a lot of Broward County because you are the queen of Broward County, is what I call it.
Oh God, actually,
you are.
Well, thank you, but
if you're in Broward County, you know who Charlotte is. But the reality is that finding like-minded people with the same heart to create a safe space, whether it is through Medicare, through plans, through food is medicine, right? Or through transportation services, or through what we're doing is very hard to find. So super grateful for you to not only have taken your time out of your day to do this for us, but I could guarantee you that there are a lot of people out there listening that need you, but need the program, and understand now that this is a nationwide advantage, right? This is not only a Broward County, Florida thing. This is throughout the state of Florida, through many states throughout. So check out your local Department of Elder Affairs website, or what do you suggest?
I would Google search Area Agency on Aging near me, and that's probably how you'll find an Area Agency on Aging that can assist you.
Yeah.
I also want to mention that in the state of Florida, we have a very strong network. I have great colleagues who are very dedicated, who work in area agencies on aging throughout the state.
Yeah.
And if they actually call our number, and I want to make sure I give that to you, it's 954-745-9779. If they call that number and they actually want to speak to another area agency on aging, we can connect you and give you that number too.
Oh, amazing.
So there is a strong network, but the best way to do it is I would just Google area agencies on aging.
Yes, and it's not AAA like the car company, guys. It is Area Agencies on Aging.
Yeah.
Well, Charlotte, it was a complete pleasure to have you here. You are our first guest, technically. So
wow.
I started strong. So everybody after you is really going to have they have big shoes to fill. But the reality is that we couldn't do it without you. Our aging community are vulnerable. They are alone. The caregivers are overwhelmed. So the fact that you've taken the time out of your day, I know you're a very important and busy woman. I'm forever grateful too. And I am also honored to be your friend and to be your colleague. So.
Well, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
You are too.
I do want to throw anything out. We have a great team. And if people do have questions, don't hesitate to call, because people will take the time to talk to you. If you call the helpline, they're extremely busy. So they may have to kind of answer you and then move you to the next call. But if you really need that extra information or support, remember I mentioned that texting service and the navigators. The navigators will have more time to focus on you and help you. So please remember there are people here to support you.
Amazing. Yeah. We are here too. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you.